Today is part 4 of exploring Silky Mochi's Dark Muse style system, and today is all about the Haunted Doll. I'm doing my best with what I have at hand with my clothing here because the Haunted Doll is very out of my usual styling, which is why I'm actually very excited to explore it. So for anybody new here, quick rundown. Silky Mochi's style system features 5 dark muses, ranging from the vampire, witch, siren, haunted doll, and fairy, that are all great muses for you to borrow inspiration from for styling your dark aesthetic. So this is a really fun one because it's all about looking cute and creepy, as Silky Mochi points out. So of course, think of those creepy Victorian dolls. In fact, this is the aesthetic, as I was like looking up inspiration for on Pinterest and stuff, that I find truly the most unsettling. There's something truly dark and creepy about this one. Probably some of this is from my fears of haunted dolls as a kid, but nonetheless, it's very playful as much as it is dark. So style-wise, briefly, you're gonna see a lot of like ruffles, ribbons, like girlish details, lots of like voluminous layers, shorter layers. And at first when I heard about the Haunted Doll, I'm sort of like, is that really as much of like a style that people take inspiration from as like some of the other muses? And then I started to realize like some recent movies really have this style, like Poor Things, the costumes in that, Ellen from Nosferatu. A little bit less recent is like Crimson Peak. Definitely Haunted Doll vibes there. There's definitely a lot of exploration happening in this aesthetic. So let's get into some of the makeup inspo you're going to want to think about. So definitely when you think of the Haunted Doll, you think of like those eyes, very doll-like eyes. So we're going to want to play with like spiky lashes. This is a fun time to play with like pastel colors, but you can really start to make it dark by like how you do the shading around the eye. So really emphasizing these folds here. Blush, completely going for a very blushy look right on the cheeks, but you can play with different colors with this, like more muted tones, grayed out colors if you'd like. And then the lips, kind of those milky doll-like lips, or I noticed a lot of like Cupid's bow shaping with like darker lip colors. So I find for this aesthetic, it's playing with the shapes a lot. That's really gonna give you the haunted doll look. And you can kind of play around with the colors for what works for you and how dramatic you want to make it. Because you can make this look really creepy and really costumey, or you can just take some elements of this and put it in your everyday style. So I want to create a look that is definitely a little bit, outside my comfort zone and a little bit creepy, but I do want to feel like maybe I would wear this, I'm going to go straight in for the blush, and I love this excuse to wear a lot of blush. Now I'm going to use this one from Flower Nose. The packaging in and of itself is so doll-like, including this brush, which I love. And this is more of like a lighter shade, but what I want to do is really build it up, see how much blush I can get from this. And because I'm going a little bit darker with like the lips and a little bit the eyes, I'm going to keep the cheeks more of like a classic color. Instead of like wiping, I'm gonna like kind of dab it right in the center there, like a really round shape. And I'm starting with this lighter shade because I kind of want to maintain that like pastel-like look, sort of powdery, especially using powder blushes is good for this. Oh, I did really want to mention Pat McGrath recently, that makeup look she was doing on the runway that was like the glazed skin. That was so doll-like and creepy doll-like, and I've noticed that's almost like a bit of a trend, like the glazed skin. I'm not sure how much you can tell, but the finish of this is the very powdery, like it looks like a porcelain doll skin. So while I'm here, I'm actually gonna powder down the whole face using the Huda powder. Even though there's that like glossy look with the skin, also going like ultra matte, like the porcelain ones. Because I feel like that shininess is from like porcelain, then glazed or something. So just really getting a lot of powder everywhere. Okay, let's move on to the eyes. So if you look at a lot of Asian beauty trends, they really do a lot of doll-like eyes. And so you can look at the placement of where they put a lot of shadows. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of emphasis of these lines, and just the general shaping, what they do in their waterline just tends to create this doll-like look. So definitely refer to that. If you want a doll-like look, whether dark or not dark aesthetic, great starting point. And as Silky Mochi also pointed out, 1920s makeup is such a great example of a doll-like and dark aesthetic. If you can go for those ultra thin brows, those will look really good. I'm wearing mine thin, but still pretty normal. But I want to do a little bit of blue and like grade out a little bit. I'm going to start with the Unearthly Gargoyle palette and this shade here, just a pretty classic blue. I think I'm going to mix in though this gray a little bit. With any dark aesthetic, like it's always a good idea to mix in grays with any shades you're using, because that always just muddies things up, darkens them up. So I'm literally mixing those two shades at the back of my hand because I didn't have any kinds of blues that were like kind of muddy. So I'm clearly in need of a blue, cloudy blue palette. All right, so I just want to get a little bit of blue really all over the eyes to start. So as I said, I think I do have a little bit of a childhood fear of dolls. Just a fun little anecdote. I wrote this like little book series as a kid called To Cream Your Head Off Books. And one of the books was called The Killing Doll, about a doll who came to life and killed everybody. So I've laid it down a little bit messily. I'm gonna blend it out. For me, I think a lot of the doll-like aspects are gonna come in with the lashes especially. I feel like a lot of dolls have blue eyeshadow. If they're wearing an eyeshadow color, it's usually blue. A little bit of this on the lower lash line. I do want to mention when you put shadows like right here, especially like going quite farther down, kind of at a diagonal here, that kind of creates this shape I mentioned that, I don't know, it just somehow, something about it, it's like how they often like shaped out eyes, both in 1920s, kind of some makeup styles, and the doll-like eye. There's something slightly unnatural about it. And going downturned, thinking about that downturn movement where you get that more like tragic feel of those, like even like those masks that represent like drama, right? Like the downturned look, very dull-like. So with that in mind, I'm going to go in, I think with like this brown here, just put a little bit more emphasis. I forget what this is called, this part of the eye, but I'm going to squint and basically draw a line where the squint ends. I'm going to take this white from the palette, Stone Cold Fox palette, and use this for any areas where I might want to brighten, kind of help blend. I'm going to put it in the inner corner. I'm aware that this is looking a little messy and almost random, especially with that line there, but I do have faith that with the lashes really taking over, it kind of both softens this in a way and like makes it more wearable. We shall see in a moment, but I do want to mention like popping white in the waterline, especially going really bold with it, like that kind of once again creates that open doll-like effect. So I'm going to do that off camera, pop it in the waterline, and then I'm going to show you a lash technique to like really thicken up the lashes, spike them out, and then we'll see how we're feeling about how wearable this look actually is. But I should mention, like, some people find these kinds of looks a lot more natural to wear. Like I found the Siren just felt like it really fit with my face shape, my style. This I find potentially you may gravitate towards if your face shape feels a bit more doll-like. It's just going to fit a bit more naturally. My face isn't doll-like at all. So there's a bit of a mismatch in my opinion, but nonetheless, yeah, I just wanted to mention that as a stopping point. It may feel more natural to you based on your face shape. That doesn't mean you shouldn't still rock it if you like the aesthetic, you know? All right, so I'm going to do this off camera, then let's get into the lashes. Fingers crossed the lashes make this look a little bit more put together. So I'm going to go in with a volumizing mascara, especially one that is really chunky. So this is the Huda One Coat Wow. And yeah, chunk up the lashes instead of like a soft lengthening, like almost like a PC style lash. So we'll see how far the mascara alone will get me. All right, it's just gonna take a lot of coats. And a good way you can get a lot more chunky volume is like getting it on the back of the lash. See, got pretty chunky pretty quick. Even using the end of the wand, often like product kind of clings there. All right, I'm kind of pretty happy with that. Let's do the lower lashes. It's a little messy trying to coat the lashes this much, so clean it up at the end. But look, that's already making such a difference. You can, use this part of the mascara wand. Kind of go like this to start, they kind of start chunking together. Okay, I'm gonna clean this up a bit and do the other side and then potentially add a couple extra false lashes to really emphasize this. Lashes are done. What I ended up doing was putting a couple extra lashes on the upper lash line from Velour. These are the volume clusters, like one here, one here. Now I feel like these eyes, maybe it's just how they look on me, they do look a little like odd and eerie, but still maintaining a little bit of that cute factor with all the lashes and the open kind of waterline. I think one way you can really lean in to the Haunted Doll is by just specifically going a little bit more than you would normally, because you can do a look like this that's very kind of 1960s, but just like a little softer. But when you start to go a little bit extra with some of the details, it just starts to feel a bit unsettling. But I feel like we still have to bring in a lot more of the dark side. So let's go into a darker lip. Now I'm going to use this shade from Lisa Eldridge called Velvet Decade, which funnily enough was inspired by 1920s lip shades. So it's like this darker brownish purple. And I've noticed that a lot of these types of looks tend to use that kind of blotted lip effect, but then there's also that shaping. So I'm going to try and get a bit of an in-between there with some blotting and some more like Cupid's bow style of shaping. So let's see where this gets me. So I'll start at the center and really get the pigment there. And then start to feather it out. I'm sure many of you will remember I did a blotted lip recently and hated it. So like emphasizing more of that rounded Cupid's bow, very doll-like, very think of like, it's like a little heart, which is very like feminine, like cutesy feminine. So I'm just gonna stamp it instead of using a lip liner. All right, is this feeling wearable to me? Not so much. Maybe I missed the mark a little bit there, but this is exactly what I was envisioning for this, the 1920s influence and the doll-like influence and the Cupid creepy vibes. Now, last finishing touch may be gloss because of that recommendation to do like a milky bit of gloss. I might try it. I feel like it brings that like femininity to it. So once again, using the same shade I used in the Dark Siren, but it's gonna look very different on top of this, and it's the shade Last Smoke. It's definitely a milky type of gloss. Just a little bit here. All right, this is the finished look. Completely out of my comfort zone, but oh so fun. Yeah, this is just really playful. I think that's such a key element with the Haunted Doll aesthetic. Playful, and just like as Silky Mochi had pointed out, like the juxtaposing feeling of this, the cuteness, the round cheeks, and then especially when you add the dark aesthetic, it's like the dark lips, the kind of eerie eyes. It all kind of plays together in a really interesting way that I think some people will find they really gravitate towards that and really like to be cute and dark at the same time. And as I said, it's an aesthetic that kind of, this Dark Muse gave me the most kind of Ooh, you're actually kind of scaring me vibes because maybe it's something about the childish elements with the really dark, eerie elements or something. But yeah, it definitely has a very specific feeling. And I did have a lot of fun with this one. I really feel like I got the balance of also the 1920s like colors and some elements, but a little modernized, a little bit maybe more approachable. You don't have to do those tiny skinny brows and block out your brows or anything. Now, if I were to revisit this to truly make it something I would want to wear on every day, I'd probably just wear this lip and just like a soft wash of blue on the eyes, and then a little bit of spiky lash, a little bit of blush, and just kind of keep it there instead of the extra details of really going at it with the lashes and the kind of line here. And maybe I'd even just go for a more neutral eyeshadow. So I really feel like you could bring this into your everyday if this is your type of style. And if this isn't your type of style, as it's not mine, I still hope you had fun and enjoyed this exploration. I will definitely link Silky Mochi's videos down below so you can explore all the Dark Muses. As well, check out my new Patreon if you want to get some bonus content like monthly makeup rituals, gonna do some behind the scenes stuff and a little bit more of the creative process. I'll link that down below. And yeah, that's it for today. Toasty, let's take it away. Guys, remember when I did the Kitchener essences and I did the ingenue essence? This is like that kind of, but dark. I'm noticing some like crossovers with these Dark Muses and some of the essences, so that's really fun. As always, thanks so much for staying until the end, and until next time, may you all find yourselves a little bit of makeup magic, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, witches.